What's up guys, my name is Austin and today I'm going to show you how to make a super simple seed starting mix so you can start your own seeds at home. It's a really cheap and economical option for a home grower instead of just buying a seed start mix. You also don't really know what's in those seed start mixes, so this gives you a lot more control on what you're putting in, and it helps you make different mixes and different blends for different plants. So this is a simple method. It's a 3-2-1 method. Basically, we're gonna use 3 parts compost, 2 parts peat moss, and 1 part perlite. It's that simple. All right guys, so before I really get going, I want to reiterate that this specific blend of soil seed starting is ideal for use with seed trays. It's got a really loose texture to it. It's really great. If you're trying to do something like soil blocking, this isn't going to have the correct composition for that, for them to hold together. I'll do a different video on soil blocking, but this is going to be for those who are using seed trays. It's gonna be great. It doesn't matter what kind of seed tray you're using. If you're using plastic or if you're using the ones that are recycled cardboard, etc. However you want to do it, if you're using TP rolls, this is a great blend to use. All right, so let's just get into it. Okay, so let's go over our ingredients. First and foremost, front and center, we want a compost. Now, I know a lot of people are probably like, what kind of compost, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Oh my gosh, it does not matter. You would like a nicer compost, sure. But everyone's gonna tell you that you need the fanciest, nicest, blah, blah, blah compost for seed starting. The fact is, seeds have a ton of energy inside of them. So what we are just trying to do is make sure that we have enough nutrients in these tiny little seed cells that we can get them from that germination stage to a hardened off stage to go into the garden where they can get more nutrients in that soil. I always tell people to prioritize getting high quality compost for their actual gardens. So if the budget doesn't let you do it for your seed trays as well as the garden, prioritize the garden, let the seeds kind of rough it out a little bit. So just get a cheap compost. If you have your own compost for your yard, that's fine too, but I like to buy my compost for seed starting just because sometimes in the compost process, if you don't do it really well, you'll end up with some weed seeds and stuff in there. So I like to just buy my compost for seed starting. Next up, you are going to want peat moss. So it's gonna look something like this. You could also use coconut coir. Everyone's got a lot of different opinions on this. I use peat moss. I use it in all of my seed starts. And if you are going to be soil blocking, peat moss or coconut coir is going to be the primary ingredient that you're going to use. But in this, it is our secondary ingredient. And last but not least, perlite. I can't say it, but we're going to use this. So perlite, it's actually, I think it's volcanic rock, right? It's some kind of volcanic something. This is me with all the knowledge. Pretty sure it's a volcanic rock that they heat to like an extreme temperature and it pops like popcorn. So it's, wow, why did I just do that? That's gonna be a mess. So it pops like popcorn at that high temperature and it creates a lot of air. And what's nice is when you add this to your soil mix, it's going to help make sure that the water kind of flows through these seed cells and you're not going to have super saturated blocks. The roots aren't gonna get too wet. It's a wonderful addition. So definitely don't skimp on this, but it is going to be our last ingredient. And then we've got a couple more things that we'll add in as well. So I always like to add a dash of powdered rock phosphate. This is so good. This specifically is a flour blend, or it's marketed as a flour blend, but basically it has phosphorus and calcium. This is gonna help your plants grow nice and strong. And then I always like to add in some green sand. So green sand looks like this, and it is nutrients rich, very dense, and we're just gonna, don't breathe that in. We're just gonna green sand bay all into our seed mix. And it's going to really help these plants get a really good start. Again, because we're adding this, we can skimp a little bit on the quality of this, which we like. Love a good skimp. All right, let's start mixing. Okay, y'all, so we're at the fun part where we're actually gonna start making the soil mix. Now, typically, I would just make it straight in a wheelbarrow, but it's a little hard to get a wheelbarrow on my potting bench. So a great alternative is using a tote. What's nice is you can make a pretty solid batch of this and like throw it in the garage. And when you're ready, you can fill your seed trays as you go. For me, I literally cannot get enough of this stuff, so I'm always making it. It's like I can't get a big enough batch. But no matter what you're going to use, I always encourage people to try and build something like this. So this is a mesh sieve. It's hardware cloth. I can't remember what gauge. It's pretty teeny tiny though. The finer, honestly, the better. And what we're going to do is we are going to pour all of our soil, all of our peat moss, everything is going to go through this mesh, and we are going to get the larger clumps out. And I'll explain a little more on that in a little bit. So let's just get started, okay? You got your mesh in place, you've got a tote to catch the mesh, and now we're just gonna follow the 3, 2, 1 method, okay? 3, 2, 1, let's go! All right, I'm a dork. All right, so we're gonna start off with 3 scoops of our compost. So the way I like to do this is I like to just, whatever kind of thing we're scooping out of, I just like to stay consistent and use the same size across all the ingredients. So we're gonna take 3 scoops of this guy with the compost right out of the gate. So we got 1. 2. And 3. All right, so now we're just going to run this through the mesh. You can already see that this compost has some larger clumps, and what this mesh sieve is going to do is it's going to help break these clumps up so that it's finer and it's easier on our seeds. We're just going to work this guy through. It's way faster in a wheelbarrow because you've got a little more surface area to get going on. And also, I think the soil's a little frozen. It's been pretty cold out. So maybe keep your compost in a warmer area and not just like outside. So the higher quality of the compost, I find a lot of times you're gonna end up with less, but as we work this through, you're gonna find a bunch of larger wooden chunks. And this is really, really important. So these larger wooden chunks are actually going to be detrimental for when you wanna start your seeds, because what's going to happen is you might end up with a large wood chunk on one of your seed cells. And when you sow that seed is not going to have the like nice soil to root into. That seed's just gonna sit on top of this giant chunk of wood, and it's not gonna root, and it's actually just gonna wither up and die. So by running everything through this mesh, we create a nice fine powdery substrate, and you can see how much of this stuff we're gonna get rid of. It also is gonna help aerate the soil, which is really, really beneficial. So now we're going to do 2 scoops of our peat moss. And we're gonna realize the scoop is over here. We're always use the same size scoop, otherwise this method does not work. All right, 1. 2. Again, you can use coconut coir for this part. A lot of people like to use coconut coir. They think it's a more environmentally friendly substitute. There's a lot of opinions out there. This is what I have access to, so I use peat moss. I've been using it for quite a while, and I really, really like it, and I know it. So it's really nice when you know how your product works in your seed starting program. Again, we're just running this through, getting rid of any big debris by running this through the mesh. And you can really begin to see how much of this loose leaf litter Now, how much of this stick litter we are not going to be putting into our soil mix. Last but not least, we're gonna add the perlite. One little scoop. Most of this usually goes to the sieve pretty well. There's always a couple that don't quite make it. All right. And now we can get rid of this completely. Okay, so now we have all of our ingredients and we're just gonna give it a nice loose mix. And then we're gonna add some of our green sand. I like to add for about this size batch, just maybe 1/4 cup. Every batch size is gonna be different. And then same with this phosphorus. Ideally, don't breathe that in. I'm sure you'll survive, but breathing in fine particles is just maybe not the best idea. All right, and we're just gonna mix it up. Mix it, mix it up, mix it up, mix it up. This is what I do when I'm by myself. It's embarrassing, but now I get to do it in front of potentially all of y'all, so that makes it less embarrassing, right? All right, and then boom, just like that, we have an absolutely gorgeous soil for seed starting. It's nice and airy. It's got a lot of delicious nutrients. Delicious. I guess they're not delicious for us, but they're gonna turn into delicious vegetables and fruits. This is an amazing, simple, easy mix following the 3-2-1 method. And you're gonna find that you're gonna fall in love with this. It's so economical. You can make it on any scale you want. If you're making a ton, use 5-gallon buckets to measure. If you just need a little bit, just use 1 cup measurements. But this is an absolutely awesome seed start mix from the get-go. So, I mean, just like, look at this. Oh, it's so gorgeous. What I like to do is in my wheelbarrow, these fit really well in the wheelbarrow, and I just will flip the soil up and fill the seed trays that way. Of course, you can just scoop. You want to make sure the seed trays are also nice and packed. So a good trick for making sure the seed trays are packed is you want to just kind of drop them a little. And you can kind of see right here how several of those cells have actually kind of flattened down. You're just gonna take more on your potting bench, and I like to rub back and forth, just like this. And just like that, you have a wonderful seed flat and you are ready to start sowing your plants. Happy planting, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, give me some comments on what you'd like to see in the future, and hopefully we will do a video on soil blocking very soon so that if you would like to start soil blocking, you can give that a go as well. Thanks so much, and I'll see y'all next time.